What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel once again. Today I'm at Jengris Volkswagen here in Plainville, Connecticut. Come check them out. Huge thanks to them for letting me take this Mk8 GTI out. This one I am very excited about because I actually have a Mk7.5 GTI. Mine is a 2019 SE with the 6-speed manual. This is a 2022 SE with the 6-speed manual, so I'm going to get a good comparison here. So I'll go through it inside and out, talk about your features, your options, the different trim levels, and tell you how it drives. So let's go ahead and take a look. So we've got the SE trim here. This one is the middle of the pack. There's an S trim, 30K to start. An SE trim, that's the special equipment trim, that is 34 grand to start, 38 up at the top when you are in that top tier Autobahn trim. Talk about what those different things mean, and that is before the market adjustment, or Mk8 adjustment as I like to call it. No, just kidding. Every car right now has a market adjustment on it. This one is in the Onyx White. If you see that Pomelo yellow, probably pronouncing that wrong, those are limited edition only. Each dealership only gets one of those, and that's going to be an Autobahn trim. Start off here on the side, we've got the 18s down here with the Pirelli P0s. These are all seasons. You get 18s on the bottom trim S and on the SE, and if you are in the top tier Autobahn, you get 19s. Those come with summer tires. We've got integrated turn signal here, heated, blind spot monitoring, standard. Pano sunroof, only in the top tier and in the SE trim. We got some updates to the look. We do have this light bar across the front, which is pretty cool. That's not on the S trim, but that is on the SE and on the Autobahn trim. GTI logo, Grand Touring injection, this big VW logo, and you got the honeycomb down here with your big intercooler. You get LEDs, headlights, and daytime running lights, as well as the fog lights, no matter what trim level you're in, even in the base S trim, so that's pretty cool. If you go into the Autobahn though, you do get the cornering lights, which is pretty cool. I have those on mine, and it's definitely a nice feature to have at night. Come around to the back here, we got the dual exhaust system. We moved the GTI logo here into the middle. Kind of liked it on the side, but you know, that's a personal preference. LED taillights are standard. Because we've got this hatchback shape here, it's super practical. You know, this is the gold standard in hot hatches for a reason. It is so practical. You can fit a ton of stuff in here. You got the 40-20-40 split on the seats there, and this carpet actually drops down. You can actually get a couple extra inches down there. I'm not going to take all this stuff off, but in mine I use that, so I drop that down. I pull this off, I can get a 60-pound dog back here. Easy, and get the whole family in the car. Let's jump into the back seats. And the back seats here, 35 inches of space with the cloth back here, no hard plastic, that's nice. We do have cloth seats here as well. This is kind of your GTI has to have plaid according to the purists, and so these have your plaid cloth seats. In the SE trim and the S trim, the standard is cloth seats. If you are in the SE, you can option leather seats though, and in the Autobahn you get the leather standard. This 35 inches actually, for a compact hatchback like this, that's actually kind of a lot of room. It actually dropped maybe half an inch, I believe, from last year, but I've got two car seats in the back of mine, one forward facing and one rear facing, and they fit pretty nicely. Headroom also pretty good. I'm 5'7", front seat is set for me. You can actually get these heated too in the Autobahn trim, which is, you know, that's a nice luxury feature for a hot hatch. All right, up front here, you do have manual seats with a little bit of power adjustment. The top tier Autobahn will give you the power seats. Here is the part up here that everyone has kind of been hating on without, without playing around with it too much. You know, everything is digital. It does make for a lot of customization. You can kind of set your gauge cluster here to whatever you want. You have 3 screens across and you can set them to whatever you want. You've got easy off of your lane keep assist, which is a physical button here. These buttons here, even though they don't look like they're physical buttons, when you press them you do get feedback. You do actually feel them press in, so it's not completely like a touch button. You do actually still have to press them down. There are some shortcuts as well. You know, if you want your heated seats, it's not a physical button, it's in the infotainment system, but you just double tap right here, click your heated seats, adjust your climate control there. It's really not too hard to get to. If you want to set certain shortcuts, maybe you would like to turn your traction control off or whatever, you just drop down, hard press, and set whatever you want to be here. It's really not actually that bad. Yeah, I do like real buttons better, but the way they made it, I think people are kind of blowing things a little bit out of proportion. As far as like how terrible it is, just super customizable. We got the full 360 camera here. This is a 10-inch screen. Okay, your driving modes. In this one, so this does have the Eco, Comfort, and Sport in custom. This does not have the dynamic chassis control, so you can't customize quite as well as you could with the Autobahn. I liked in mine, I actually had that as an option on the SE trim. I wish they would add that in as an option here, but you still have the different modes that adjust your throttle response, your steering feel, and you just can't, you know, adjust the chassis. Some USB ports down here. We do have wireless charging, wireless Android Auto, wireless Apple CarPlay. That's pretty big. Another thing about these seats, I mentioned that these are the cloth seats. You can, in the SE trim, actually get leather. If you get the leather, then you also get the ventilated seats, which are standard in the Autobahn, because those have the leather standard. So if you do that, you get leather, ventilated seats, and you get the heads-up display, which is pretty cool to be able to get that. I know I'm not like the biggest fan of a heads-up display, but I understand its usefulness, and when it's done right, especially with navigation and stuff, it can definitely be pretty helpful. And this one does have the Harman Kardon system. In mine, I have the Fender system, and that one was an upgrade in the SE, but this one now you get the premium audio standard in the SE and the Autobahn. Overall, I mean, they went for a really sleek and clean look in here. Nice sporty steering wheel. I like the way they did this with the red and the black. You still got your flat bottom steering wheel. People are concerned about pressing some of these buttons, I know, while you're driving, but your hands are really not near the buttons, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. Your heated steering wheel button is on your steering wheel. That's big props to them for doing that. You know, overall, people complain about this without actually sitting in one. I think you really got to sit in it and play around with the settings and play around with things. It really is actually, you know, it's not as bad as people are making it out to be. Yeah, I mean, not only is it not as bad as people are making it out to be, but it's actually a lot better than people are making it out to be, because it's just so customizable. Everything is quick, like it responds really quickly. In mine, it's kind of delayed in my Mk7.5, but in this one, all right, let's go ahead and take it for a quick drive here. We've got the golf ball shifter here. They did change it around a little bit. I do kind of, you know, it's still got the dimples on it. Still feels good. I think I kind of like mine a little bit better, but I wouldn't complain having to use this one. We've got the electronic parking brake. My favorite. I wish they would have kept the handbrake. You got push down, over, and up to get your backup cam. I'll flip up your VW logo in the back. Your camera out the back. That stays protected in bad weather. Nice big 10-inch screen here. 8.25-inch screen if you're in the S trim. All right, let's go ahead and go. Right off the bat, we've still got the 2-liter turbo in this one. 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo. It's the updated version, 241 horsepower, 273 pound-feet of torque. But it hits a little bit higher in the rev range. Both those numbers are up a couple hundred RPM in the rev range from mine. In the Mk7.5 was at 228 and 258 for power and torque, but they hit, you know, a couple hundred RPM lower to hit the peak. Shifting is pretty similar. It doesn't feel quite as rubbery as mine. You know, it seems like they've updated the shifter. It's still a cable linkage, but in mine it feels kind of like rubber on rubber, and like you're kind of popping it into gear, and it's not the most satisfying feeling. In this one, I do feel like they've improved the shifter feel. The clutch feel is about the same. It's on the lighter side, but it's not so light that you get no communication, like something like a Corolla or like the new Civics or anything like that. But it's not so heavy that like it would be awful in traffic. Put it into sport mode. Forgot to mention this push button start. That is standard across the board, even in the S trim. It used to be you had to get at least the SE. It's just so lightweight and chuckable, you know. I'm not going to throw it around a lot because it's a dealer car, it's not my car, but you know, it's very nimble. It is front wheel drive, of course. If you want all wheel drive, you can get into a Golf R, but it's very nimble. It does feel actually a lot more balanced than mine. Even without the dynamic chassis control, I would definitely opt for that if you can step up to the Autobahn. You can tell the difference driving without the dynamic chassis control and driving with it. Yeah, it's plenty punchy. I mean, this is the gold standard of hot hatches for a reason. You know, it's punchy, it handles well, it's compact. You get luxury features, like you can get a heads-up display, heated ventilated seats, heated steering wheel, but yet it's super practical. And with all this digital stuff, you know, I came into it kind of thinking, oh, this is gonna be not so great, but it's so customizable. Let's try something out. Yeah, and because there is actually feedback, it is actually a button that you do press, it'll work even with gloves on. They're just regular cloth gloves, no issues there. Okay, so it does have the hill hold. Yeah, it doesn't respond quite as well to your throttle inputs as mine. With mine, you can kind of tap the throttle and it'll back off, the hill hold will back off and you can roll. This one, you hit it and it kind of is delayed for a second. I'm not gonna lie, that one's a little bit frustrating. You know, overall, I think people are going overboard with like, oh, this system is terrible, the Mk8 is awful, it looks awful in person. I mean, go check one out if you have the chance to. Like, I'm not just saying this, like I own a Mk7.5 and I love my car. And I was going into this kind of thinking like, well, you know, it doesn't look great in pictures and I would hate to touch the wrong thing. These sliders are annoying or whatever. But once you use them, you can kind of tell, okay, you know, you don't need to slide it, you can tap it, or you can customize it, you can put your shortcuts in, you can do this, you can do that, you can change the colors, change everything about it is customizable, and you just get a little bit more punch, as well as, you know, the same kind of practicality that you're used to with the GTI, the same kind of do-it-all and some more luxury features. Overall, as a package, I think it's a solid car. I mean, I think that if you have the chance to get into one, go check it out for sure. I'd be super happy with this. You know, my car's only got 15,000 miles on it. I'm not trading it in. But if I had the opportunity, you know, it'd be a big consideration. I would definitely consider this. Thanks again to Jangris Volkswagen here in Plainville, Connecticut, for letting me take this out. If you have a car for me, jason@manual-cars.com. Doesn't need to be a manual necessarily, but, you know, definitely would love it if it is. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.